Hey guys, so welcome back to the sixth series of Discuss. Alright, so I think uh enough of the explanation. Let's quickly jump into coding. Alright, so before that, I'll be cleaning up this code just to uh just to get you guys on board from scratch. Okay, so let me just delete most of whatever we have here. Uh, we'll be creating these files. We'll be creating these files again, but I want to take you guys through the process of creating this file. So you can delete all this, but you can't delete this, right? So you remember how everything works. Run app calls my app, and this is my app, and my app returns a home. So what we'll be doing is we'll be deleting this home, and then we'll have to create this from scratch. So one thing you should notice is as soon as I deleted this home, because the home is actually expecting a widget, right? It's actually expecting a class. You can see we have let me put comma here. You can see we still have error. We have this red warning or whatever you call it, uh, danger. That this what this actually means is Flutter is a runtime framework, or that is a runtime programming language, right? So what this means is if there's any error in your code would not run. So if I should save this, Control X to save, a shortcut for saving is Control X. If I should save this, right, and try to run my code, let's see. So from my console down there, right, this is where I get report of my app, whatever is going on my app. There are there are two major outputs, two major consoles here. The first one is debug console and the output. But whenever you're running your app, you will always be on your debug console because if there are any issues on your app, it gets reported down here. Okay, so let me try to run this app real time so you can see the issues we're talking about. As long as you're having this warning on your app is not going to run. Okay, so let me try to run this, run without debugging. So you can see build errors exist in your project, right? So with these build errors, there is no way my app is going to run until it's resolved. So please, you saw me going through the deleting process. All I did was I deleted my main home my main widget, that is the home page. I deleted that, and also I'll be deleting these comments here, right? Just the comments, just these comments. The ones that are green. We'll talk about comments later, but you shouldn't delete any other thing outside comments. Okay, please watch and follow carefully. Right. So the next thing we want to do, we want to create our first file in Flutter. Right. So we really understand this import key, how it really works, right? So if I should come over to my lib folder, everything about your project is going to be in your lib folder, this folder you have in here. So how to actually create a new file? Let me zoom in just for those of you uh, not having a closer zoom. So let me zoom in. Yeah, so if I should come over here and right click, right, not left, right click for options. The option that will come up here, the first one is new file, right? You click on it. Now, there is the input box here. All you need to do is to put your file name. Okay. I will call this home underscore screen. So this is the naming convention in Flutter. You cannot name a file like this, home screen dot that. Okay. Uh I don't probably maybe the rules has changed, but I don't really know. But the best practice for naming convention is using the underscore to identify the name of the file, right? So underscore screen. It can be anything. It can be page. It can be whatever you want to whatever you want to have it called. But uh, for the sake of this course, I will advise you to follow the naming convention I'm having here, just so there will be no confusion in the early stage because you are still trying to grab the whole concept, right? So say screen dot that, right? So always remember that as long as you're creating a dat file, it must end with dot dat, right? So you click on enter. Um, so what you have is a pure blank screen. Okay, it's a pure blank screen. So you're going to be literally building everything from scratch. Now, let's go back to the our main .dat file, which is what we have here, and let's talk about a stateless widget and the stateful widget. So there are two types of widgets in Flutter, right? There are two types of widgets, or yes, it's widgets, right? Because this extends this widget. And remember how I told you that Material app, right, comes with a set of rules. Okay, from here is a design system that comes with a set of rules and guidelines on how your interface should be built. So it is by following this set of rules and guidelines that you're able to build a successful or a good looking project. Now, let's come back. So there are two types of widgets. The first one is stateless widgets. So if I should take this up a little up, I hope I don't run into any problem. So if I should hover my mouse over this, you see that from here you see the definition. A widget that does not require mutable states, right? That is a stateless widget. It's actually a widget that does not require mutable states. A stateless widget is a widget that describes part of okay, so let me move this over here, right? So we get this definition clearly because it's very, very important. So a stateless widget is a widget that describes part of the user interface by building a constellation of other widgets that describe the user interface more concretely. The building process continues recursively until the description of the user interface is fully concrete, consistent entirely of. Forget about all this. So a stateless widgets are useful when the part of the user interface you are describing does not depend on anything other than the configuration information in the object itself and the build context. I will talk about all this later. In which the widget is inflated for composition that can change dynamically due to having an internal clock widget state or depending. So the most important thing is a state. So it now say, or depending on some system state, consider using stateful widget. Now, good. So you see, this all brings us back to the second type of widget we have, which is stateful widget. Now, the two keyword there is this state, right? And stateful widget, right? So let's come back here. So a stateless widget is simply that widget uh that does not make dynamic changes or that does not depend on any form of states, right? So it doesn't have any states. So the 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 best way that this will be explained to you is you remember the code that was responsible for our uh, our increments here, right? Now that code uses what we call state. Okay, so if you're working on a code like this, right, that changes the state of an item dynamically, you cannot use a stateless widget, right? Because what this means is there is no state management, right? There is no state management that can help you change data dynamically. So if you really want to use a state management that helps you change data dynamically, what you should be using is a stateful widget, not a stateless widget. So there are two types of widgets, right? Let me comment this here. There are two types of widgets. One widget. Let me just put this as a sentence here. Stateful and stateless widgets, right? So what was employed there was a stateless widget, right? But throughout this course, we would be talking about stateful and stateless widget. Not just talking about them, we will be using them all through our course. So it will be very easy for you to grab the whole concept. But with the little explanation I've made, right, and also by hovering over this widgets here, you also see it explained in details to you. Okay, but for a common man, it simply means a widget that has a state and that which does not have a state, right? And later we'll talk about the states in details. Okay, so I think this is almost 11 minutes of this course. So guys, we'll continue with the creation of uh, our page. We already created the page. We'll continue by working on it in uh, the next series of this course. See you guys in the next series.